إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. My khutbah today is about 11 women. And when I sent the topic to Azim al-Din, he said, we don't have time, we need to make it 20 minutes. I said, then it will be 5 women. So actually, it's 11 women that were mentioned in a hadith. Aisha radiallahu anha sat with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you think about the environment of the hadith, you can imagine the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who's a prophet. The Prophet had multiple roles that he had to play. A prophet, a leader of the community, a man and a husband. So he goes home and he sits with his wife. He has to be what she expects him to be for her, the husband and the man, and not a man that's going to lecture to her. So he sat with her and listened to a whole complete conversation or hadith. It was actually her describing these 11 women. And I could imagine why Aisha radiallahu anha, that young wife of the Prophet ﷺ, would mention a hadith like this. And there is so much that we can learn from it, but let me tell you what the hadith is so you'll understand where I'm coming from. 11 women, it says, and it's narrated in multiple books of hadith, including Bukhari and Muslim. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت جلس 11 امرأة. Until now, there is no mention of the Prophet ﷺ. She's saying, جلس 11 امرأة فتعاهدن وتعاقدن ألا يكتمن من أخبار أزواجهن شيئا. 11 women sat down and they made an explicit pledge and promise that they will never hide anything from the news of their husbands or things that they know about their husbands. قالت الأولى. And listen, these are women from a culture like a Bedouin culture. As you see, they're using a lot of metaphor. And metaphor is important sometimes to give a more comprehensive understanding of the person that you're talking about. So that's why it needs a lot of explanation, but the metaphor is, she says, زوجي لحم جمل غث على رأس جبل لا سهل فيرتقى ولا سمين فينتقل. She's describing her husband as camel meat that came from a camel that was very weak, lean, not desired at all. And that meat, on top of that, is put on top of a mountain that is not easy even to reach that meat, to get it, and it's not even desirable to even take the effort to climb the mountain and get that meat. So she's describing her husband to be an unapproachable man. And not only that he's not approachable, doesn't talk to her at all, he is also undesired. There's nothing good in him that she should go and just probably make the effort to just get something out of him. There's nothing to get out of him. That is the first woman. The second woman says, زوجي العشنق إن أنطق أطلق وإن أسكت أعلق. She's saying my husband is tall. And what she means by that, أشنق means tall and stupid. In the Arabic language, أشنق, that's what it means. طويل وهبل, مش هيك? Tall and stupid. If I say anything, he'll divorce me. It doesn't matter. If I say anything, he'll divorce me. And if I am quiet, I will just have to put up with him. Like a suspended woman. I'm not getting anything out of him. The third one says, now the third one changed it. She's now praising her husband. زوجي كليل تهامة لا حر ولا قر ولا مخافة ولا سآمة. She's describing her husband like the weather of the mountains of Tihama, an area in the coastal area of Saudi Arabia, and it is really pleasant. Nice breeze, very soft, easygoing, and he's not boring. So she's saying he's not boring, he's easygoing, he's soft with me, and I'm not afraid of him. He gives me safety. So she's looking for safety, pleasant, and not boring. Really fun to be with. So she's describing her husband that way. The fifth one says, زوجي إن دخل فهد وإن خرج أسد ولا يسأل عما عهد. She's describing her husband to be, he's brave outside, like a lion, brave outside. She's proud of him, he's brave. And when he comes home, he's like a leopard. Sleeps, doesn't bother her, doesn't ask about many things in the house. عنده تغافل, he let it go. He let a lot of things go. Does not ask many questions. What did you do with the money? Well, I bought this. What happened to it? I mean, a lot of husbands are like that. They come home and they never stop asking questions. No, she's saying he's the kind that he comes, sleeps, he's very soft, easygoing. He's not coward. He's brave, but he's not brave at home. He's very sweet at home. And it doesn't matter what happens. If there is a mistake, he doesn't ask about these mistakes. So you could understand that she's telling us that her husband is not picky, does not pick on her, does not put her down. He's not like micromanaging her. He's not micromanaging her. He gives her her authority at home. He's a leopard, but she's a lioness at home. He's a lion outside, though. The sixth one says, now listen to this. My husband, when he eats everything. زوجي إذا أكل لف وإن شرب اشتف وإن اضطجع التف ولا يولج الكف ليعلم البث. She says, my husband, when he eats everything. When he drinks everything, doesn't leave anything, doesn't care about who's at the house. He eats everything, drinks everything, and when he goes to sleep, he rolls himself and sleeps away from her, and does not extend his hand to touch her or touch her hand, so he'll know her problems, meaning that he doesn't listen to her. He wants to eat, drink, and sleep, doesn't care about her situation. He's not interested in learning about her sadness or what she feels. He doesn't touch her. So this is the kind of husband that she's talking about. Number 7, she says, زوجي غياياء أو عياياء طباقاء كل داء له داء شجك أو فلك أو جمع كل لك. This is a husband that what I call run away from husband. This is the kind of husband that you run away from. Which is, this is a husband who's an idiot, غياء, bad manners, and impotent, عيايا, he's impotent, cannot have any relation with his wife. And طبقة, he is an idiot, he doesn't think, not appropriate when he speaks. And every sickness that you can think of is in him. He has a share in every sickness. Like he is full of problems. And not only that, he hits her to the point where he could injure her body, breaking her limbs, or break her head. So that's the husband that she's describing. Number 8, she says, زوجي المس مس أرنب والريح روح زرنب. She is praising her husband of being soft, kind, and smelling good. He takes care of his hygiene. He smells good. He's soft and kind. Number 9, she says, زوجي رفيع العماد طويل النجاد عظيم الرماد قريب البيت من الناد. In brief, she's describing her husband to be like a master in his tribe, a dignitary in his tribe, and as well as he is generous, where he has a lot of ashes in front of his home, meaning that there's a lot of food being served, and that his house is right next to the city center, so all the guests will come to him, praising him. Number 10, she says, زوجي مالك وما أدراك ما مالك. This is the first time a woman mentioned her name, her husband by name, and saying Malik is better than all of what you have mentioned. He has many camels. A lot of them are at home, so ready to be slaughtered for the guests. Again, she's proud of her husband's generosity. He's generous. This is a quality that women love about their husbands, that they're generous. Number 11, which is the one that is really worthy of listening to, Zara. She says, زوجي أبو زرع فما أبو زرع. أناس من حلي أذني. أناس من حلي أذني وملأ من شحم عضدي وبجحني فبجحت إلي نفسي. She says, he took me, he filled my ears with jewelry, like a lot of jewelry. And then he was generous with me. I didn't go hungry. And he always praised me. He spoke so nicely about me, praising me, glorifying me, talking so nice to me, talking nice words to me, that I stopped believing that all of what he says about me is true. Something that she probably didn't believe she had, in a way where sometimes if you want your wife to be that good, tell her she's that good. Like, if you want your wife to be nice to you, tell her you're nice, so she can believe it. Not that he was telling lies, but he's praising her, giving her affirmation of good qualities. And then she said, وَجَدَنِي فِي أَهْلِ غُنَيْمَةٍ بِالشِّقِّ. He found me, بِأَهْلِ, my family are just owners of sheep, meaning they're not all that well. Arabs used to be proud of owning camels and horses, not sheep. She said, I was belonged to a family that owned sheep. He took me from my family and made me an owner of horses and camels, and made me an owner of land and grains. And whenever فعنده أقول فلا أقبح, whenever I say something in front of him, I don't get criticized. Doesn't matter what she says, he doesn't criticize her. She speaks to him and he doesn't criticize her. He gave her comfort, and no one dares to put her down or criticize her. وأرقد فأتصبح, and she says, when I sleep late, meaning that he had a servant serving me and cleaning. And then she started talking about his mom, showing that this woman, when she loved her husband, she also loved his family, loved his children from a different marriage. She says, وَأُمُّ زَرْعٍ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا أُمُّ زَرْعٍ عُكُومُهَا رِدَاء, meaning she has a lot of dishes, meaning they're very generous. A lot of dishes in her home. وَبَيْتُهَا فِسَاحٍ, that her house is very wide and spacious for the guests. Ibn Abi Zar', she's talking about his son now, praising his son. That's how much he loved him. He says, this man is a handsome man, not fat, thin, and he eats and very little, anything that makes him satisfied. His daughter, she's describing his daughter, she is the daughter of her father, meaning that her father paid attention to her, cared about her, and where it became the envy of her peers. And she described her as full-bodied, meaning that she wasn't hungry. She was well taken care of. And then she even described the servant. She said, the servant of Abu Zara. She doesn't tell our secrets. She cleans the house where you don't find, spider web all over the place. She cares, and she does not waste our food or waste our things. That's how much she loved her husband, describing everything about his family and everything attached to him. Then the problem is that Abu Zar', she said, at a time when camels were, full of milk, people go to milk their camels. Abu Zar' went out and he saw a woman with two little boys playing with her. He fell in love with that woman, divorced Zara', and married that woman. Very sad story, of course, for Zara'. However, she said, after that, I married another man who was very generous with me, gave me everything. He said, Zara', take everything you want, take anything you want to your family as well. She said, whatever this man spent on me was not as equivalent to the littlest thing that Abu Zar' gave me, even the littlest pot of drink that Abu Zar' gave me. That's how much she remembered Abu Zar'. She spoke about him while she was divorced from him. She didn't have grudges against him. She still was loyal to the good things that he showed her. There's so much that we can learn from this. But what I want to focus on is when Aisha finished, the whole time Aisha radiallahu anha was talking to the Prophet about these 11 women, the Prophet never interrupted her. He listened completely to everything she said. You say, he's a busy man. Does he have time for this? A lot of us think that we're so important that we don't have time for this. Yes, you should have time for this. You should have time for your wife. Doesn't matter what she speaks about. Sometimes you may think that she may speak about something silly, but it tells you so much about who your wife is. It gives you an idea. A lot of us don't know our spouses. We don't know them because we don't give them the time to talk to us. And we talk to them. And have that conversation just for the sake of conversation. Not because we want to solve a problem of the kids or a problem of the house. Or that pillow talk. This is the kind of pillow talk that the Prophet had. Listen to Aisha the whole time. And it tells you a lot about how educated Aisha was. A very young wife, yet she was very educated. The language that she learned, the language that she used, these women used language that Arabic scholars, linguists, needed to explain this. Imam Qadi Iyad explained this hadith in 200 pages. 200 pages, Qadi Iyad explained this hadith. Women can give you a lot of wealth if you give them the chance to listen to them and understand them, like the Prophet ﷺ did. So what did the Prophet say? He says, أنا لك كأبي زرع لأم زرع إلا أني لا أطلقك. He says, I am to you like how Abu Zar' was to Zar', except I will not divorce you. What did the Prophet mean by that? The Prophet understood from the whole story is that Aisha radiallahu anha wanted to know her status with the Prophet. What kind of husband are you to me? I know what I think, but what do you think? And the Prophet gave her assurance. Indeed, when she heard that, another narration in At-Tabarani, Aisha said, Wallahi innaka khayrun min Abi Zar'in li Ummi Zar'. Innaka li khayrun min Abi Zar'in li Ummi Zar'. You to me is better than how Abu Zar' was to Ummi Zar'. Meaning, what he was actually for her. What was the Prophet ﷺ in his home? As Aisha described him, he was just like you, O men. He was a man. He wasn't assuming his status. This is one thing that men don't realize. You go home, don't assume a status, meaning that, oh, I'm the master of the house. Don't assume a status. Women want togetherness. They don't want hierarchy. Put this in your mind. Women at home, or even in all of their relationships, don't seek hierarchy. Who's up and who's down. That will shut them down. They seek togetherness. They want to know that you're with them as their equal. Aisha, a young wife, the Prophet told her how he was with her, where he is not assuming the lecturer. He's not assuming the prophet. There are times where he had to, when he needed to teach religion, teach the guidance. But as a man, he was a man in his house. He served her. He was in the service of his wife. He cleaned his house. He repaired his clothes, repaired his shoes, cooked sometimes if he had to, served his wife. He was in the business of serving his family. He said, خِيَارُكُمْ لِنِسَائِكُمْ. The best among you are those who are best to their wives, and I am the best among you to my wife. This is important to realize. I would like you to take this. If you want to know something that I want to focus on here is listen to your wife the way she speaks, not the way you understand her words. Understand what she means by whatever she says. These women were comfortable amongst themselves to say anything they wanted. Would you think that they could say that to their husbands? I don't think so. So we need to be able to make our wives able to speak to us the way they want to speak to us, so we'll understand them correctly. Because sometimes we don't understand our wives because we look at things differently from the way they look at things. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. I think you probably have been noticing that we've been talking about these issues quite often, especially these times. We are taking advantage of the youngsters and our young husbands being here on the summer break, so they'll understand these families are very important. Our families, the strength of a community is the bigger picture of the strength of the family. If you have a strong family, you have a strong community. And the strength of the family depends on how strong the relationship between the husband and wife is and how genuine it is. So it is important to really educate yourself about this. And it's not too late. Whether you've been married for a month, a year, 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years, it's not too late. We get so much knowledge from trying to understand our spouses than we get from just trying to figure it out ourselves. So we have tailored a program, actually, which is called Marriage GPS, a workshop of 4 parts and we have done it here, inshallah. We're going to start tomorrow, and there will be subsequent workshops on understanding marriage and relationships. So we will be doing this, inshallah, and that's probably why we've been focusing on this topic, because we want to actually curb or try to stop the fall in family relationships and the number of divorces that we have and number of issues that our families have and our married couples have, that sometimes these issues are because of lack of understanding and lack of knowledge. So we would like this to be something that we are interested in here as a community. So with this I end. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين معصيتك ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جنتك ومن اليقين ما تهون به علينا مصائب الدنيا ومتعنا اللهم بأسماعنا وأبصارنا وقواتنا أبدا ما أبقيتنا واجعله الوارث منا واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا وانصرنا على من عادانا ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا وأقم الصلاة